here. It's now been more than 3 weeks since I last worked on the truck. The reason, as you might suspect, is that I hurt my back. You saw the filming of me misjudging the clearance between the truck and my head. Overall, that wasn't a problem. Luckily, there's nothing to damage in there, so I could have been back to work the next day. As it happens, I had overexerted my back in the previous few days, and then the day after the head clearance issue, I tried to sort my back out too, and we did some stretches and bendings and all those sort of things. To top it off, we went for a 5-kilometer walk, and then in the evening when I got back, my back basically said, nope, you're not going to do anything now. It's taken me 3 weeks to have confidence to come out here. Today I'm taking it very easy. Anyway, that's not why you're here, to listen to me moan about being old and stupid. Let's get into the gist of things and see what we can do today. You've seen the taillights before, so there is nothing new about those. These are designed to be mounted through a plate with the bolts. However, as I want the lights on the truck to be recessed so that they don't get damaged, it also means that I don't want to have these bolts protruding the lights further backwards. And I also do not want to drill holes in the body just for these bolts. The basic problem is that if I were to drill the 2 holes in the truck, we would have to fasten them from the back, which means that there would be a hole, which would mean leaks. Trying to avoid direct holes, I need to make a bracket and change the way that these are fastened. So my current idea is that I will use a piece of flat bar that goes up and then I bend it 90-ish degrees. That way I am hoping that I can have 2 holes on each bracket sticking up here so that I can attach it to the underside of the recess for the lights. And in that case the attachment point will be waterproof. That's kind of the idea at the moment. Let's make some brackets. To make these brackets, the first step is to use the Tab Maker 6000 on the ends here, and then I can drill a hole and round off the edge here, and I'll use the other end of the same stick, so I get 2. As you know, I'm making stuff up as I go along, and it just occurred to me that it's probably a good idea to have captive bolts on these ones, so I can replace the whole bolts here, and that way I can make this profile really slim. Longest protruding bit will be the cable. And to make the captive bolts, I need to find the correct bolt, but also I need to drill this hole not to M8 but to M8 tap size, so I can then tap it. That way you can put a nut on and it's all captive before you weld it. Okay, I'll stop. As this is an organic engineering project, I'm changing my mind often. I started out by doing this in a very step-by-step way, and then I realized that I should actually do a little bit of sciencing. I used the science machine here and some measurements, and I came up with the design of the L brackets. This means I now roughly know what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what the sciencing has taught me. By tapping this end of the bars, I was able to put a bolt in, and therefore I can cut them fairly accurately to the same length. That means that now when I come to mark them with the super marker rounder bit 6000, I can be pretty certain that they all are marked at the same positions. Let's do some tappity tap tap and mark the bars. Right, and now according to my sciencing, the next hole needs to be 20 millimeters from that one. That's a 20. There we go. This one. Stick that in there, and then I just push that one up to there, and I'll make a mark like that. And I'll do that for all of them. Let's go over to the spinny chisel and make some holes. As I now have 4 of these, I need to put a bend in them. I am going to just make a slight cut with the cutting disc, and hopefully that way I can put a fairly accurate bend on them, and hopefully also in a straight line. I removed the screws from the back here. I screwed that one into there a bit, and by putting that into there, we have a pretty nice and tight fit there. And from this perspective, the bolt fits nicely in there. Without further delays, I reckon that it is time to cut a piece that fits in between them. I can now proceed to welding them to the angled pieces, but before I weld them to the angled pieces, I want to fix the brake where I actually cut it and then bent it. And I thought the best way to hold everything in place is to just simply clamp it onto the vise so that it prevents it from spreading. TIG welding time. It seems that after a lot of faff with trying to clamp these in an accurate manner, I have managed to do so with reasonable success. I've tested the brackets like so on the light. Just put the screws in a little bit and put one like so, and yeah, they seem to work. So now all I have to do is apply heat to them and bend them out of shape. To do the captive bolts, I got one of these regular M8x30 bolts, and I chopped off the head, and I checked whether it will actually have enough stick out for the plastic light housing and a washer and nut, and it seems that it is pretty much perfect. So now I need to cut 3 more, and then I need to position them like this and just give them a quick weld on the back, and we should be pretty much there. The brackets are now done, and yeah, I could probably spend another hour or so just making my inner perfectionist a bit happier with them, but I think they came out quite well. So why don't we try to fit one? See how it actually works. We already have a problem. I tried to be quite careful with where I positioned everything, but by the looks of it, we need to remove a little bit of a half moon thingy over there, just to make sure that we get all the screws in. Not a biggie. Turn it so you can see it. So basically, we got the washer on there, the lock nut on there, the washer on there, lock nut on there. It worked really well, except for that little notch there that we need to fix. I guess I should go get the other light just to see whether they are actually left and right sided, or if one just needs to be fitted upside down. I picked up the second light, and yes, one is just upside down. There's no lefty righty handy or anything like that. So I did the notch on this one first, which now means that I need to open this one up again and do a bit of notchy there. Other than that, we're pretty much done. Alrighty then. Looks like we have two brackets. And there's the notch in that one, and there's the notch in the other one. They seem sturdy enough, and they don't seem to protrude backwards too much. There's plenty of space here to attach the light, like that. And they are strong enough to hold the light when we're traveling into the far, far distance. This means that I now have no more excuses. I need to start working on the thingies that you might see there, so that these fit in there. But not tonight. Now, when we have brackets for the tail lights, we need to make the recess where the tail lights are going to sit. And yes, they're going on the back of the truck where the 45-degree tail is, and as such they need to be put into basically a hole. I used the computer to make a digital CAD file, and then I printed it out. But before we get on to that, let me first assure you that we have no interest in making an unsafe vehicle. The taillights are one of the most critical aspects of the truck, especially as this is going to be a slow truck and we might be turning off a faster road, and we do not want vehicles running into us. So brake lights, fog light, and especially indicators are very critical. I have a little bit of concern myself that they're not visible enough, but that seems to be the major concern with the feedback from the pictures I posted on the socials. A lot of people said, oh, that's not going to work, or that's too far in, can you actually see? So I also think this is one of those things that looks odder and worse on paper and pictures rather than in reality. So bear with us. We have no interest in making an unsafe vehicles, and I do have a little bit of a trick going for me, but we'll get to that. Back to the plan. Here are some dimensions, and these are the ones that I now need to figure out along with the whole recess, and then they need to be fabricable and then welded onto the saddlebags, the sides. Let's get on with it. So now I'm going to proceed to cut out a 445 by 870 piece. With this one cut and bent, it's lovely how they turn out really quite strong when you do that. I now need to cut out this piece here, which is the end plates. I need 4 of them. That was a lovely time with the grinder. This has resulted now in that we have 4 of these end plates and we have 2 of the channels, as you know. That means that I'm out of excuses to procrastinate with other stuff, and so better get on with welding the ends to the channels there. And there we have the planters, taillight recesses. They now have these very ugly MIG welding beads on them, so I better get on with the eraser and get rid of those. You've seen the weather out there, and weather makes a big difference to my mental state. It is only a few days until Christmas, and my initial plan of having all this wrapped out weeks ago was scuppered due to my bad back. So now I'm gonna use a little bit of sizzle, and my intention is to actually get everything done as well as I can before the Christmas thingy happens. I know I won't get it welded onto the truck, but at least I can make it all as ready as possible, so that if there's a streak of a few 3-4 nice days, then we can get on with welding it in place. For now, let's just get on with it. Complaining won't get stuff fixed. When I finished work yesterday, I had achieved these 2 planters slash spice racks slash bird baths, whatever you want to call them, for the taillights. Now, I was a little bit disappointed initially because I had made the bracket too compact, meaning that the gap between the top and the bottom is not ideal. It also seemed that the light is recessed in there quite a lot too far. Basically, I would like this edge here to be quite close to this edge here. However, if you push it down and center the light, then it is actually quite good. That means that one of the first things that I need to do today is modify the brackets that I just made a few days earlier. I need to extend them so that the light comes further down. I've used the Fireball tool magnetic spacing blocks in the box here, and I have 20 millimeters underneath and 20 millimeters down at the bottom and 15 at the top. Basically, that means that I need to extend the bracket by 15 millimeters according to my limited scientific brain. But it looks like this now. It's not centered horizontally like that, but yeah, that is how it is, and and that seems quite good. I'm not really happy with the 20mm at the back, but the protruding cable thingy is kind of what we have to work with. I'm not keen on trying to route this out on the side or anything like that. I don't think we're gonna gain much. We'd gain something. I could cut off the edge of the flower box here, but I think we're now starting to get to a level of hair splitting that not even I'm comfortable with. So that's a slightly extended morning and a couple of extended brackets. Without making more noise, I'm going to try to fit them back on the lights. No, that didn't go very far, did it? I was very careful to make sure that that notch is on the right side so that I didn't mix them up or anything like that. I even went to the light and tested, but again, a good example of when the brain waves just can't reach the full length of the journey. The notch has moved up, but the bolt or the screw hole has not. I think I need to regrind the notch. Here's the problem. I hope you can see that. So the notch is there, but the bolt hole is there. So yeah. Back in a bit. As you saw, I positioned the lights in there and they all fit tickety-boo. I've marked out the holes for the brackets where they will mount, and then I took 8 of the M6 extension nuts and cut them in half and ground them down a bit. So now I'm going to drill the holes and then weld those on top. The captive nuts are now tack welded in place here. It fits really well, everything looks good. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how far further up I want the secondary road position to be. Once I know where they are, I will center punch them, drill them, and put the rest of the nuts on, tack weld them in place there, and then I will fully weld it all. This is where we ended up last night before I completely collapsed. This is the road position, and this is the standard position. In the standard position, the light doesn't protrude at all and should therefore be fairly safe. In this one, it's a little bit sticky out and sticky out. When I was welding the nuts on the whole top panel warped, so I've reinforced it with this bar. This is a solid metal bar, so it's quite heavy. Don't like that, but I think it is needed primarily to stabilize this bit in the future. But for now, I also need some form of straight line here to actually hold this straight so that we can weld it in nicely at the back on the side pods. Ooh, yeah! Top of the morning to you. I'm trying to muster up a little bit of YouTube shouting at the camera stuff. But it's a bit difficult because outside there is tons of rain, and today is Wednesday and Christmas Eve is on Saturday, and this one isn't done. My back is on the way out, so I am trying not to focus on all the miserable things but trying to focus on this stuff. Now I need to try to put this, sorry for the noise, there-ish. Something like that. And as you know, metal is fairly opaque, so we need a hole here. And I need to figure out exactly where to cut the hole and how to do that and how to trim it. And then hopefully I can weld it all in place and it will all be very nice. Let's focus on that and go a little bit, yeah, and see if we can get this done. Yeah, YouTube, yeah! Miserable cold day, hat indoors. So as you can see, we have a hole here now. And I have deliberately cut the hole small, so I can spend some time grinding it to perfection. Unless you invent wireless power before we can mount this cable needs to go somewhere. And that somewhere is to there. And I really don't want it sticking out. We need a hole in there with a surrounding on it. Some call this a pipe or a tube, so there needs to be 2 holes made there, and it probably needs to be welded onto the light recess before anything else. I don't really know how to do this, so that is the next thing I'll have to figure out. I welded the tube onto the light recess as you saw, and it's now poking out here. That means that I think the next step is for me to clamp this down as tight as I can and then start giving it some tack welds. It's actually looking quite good. Yeah, it might work. I think there's going to be a lot of grinding to get the corners nice. It's now 16:25 and I think I'm done with the passenger side pod. And if we scoot down like this, that's what it looks there. The hole on the side is there. Peekaboo! If I manage to do the other one in 3 hours, it'll be about 7:30 when I'm finished, so I might be in the house by 8. At the moment I have energy. Do I have 3 hours? Don't know. We'll see. Let me get back to work instead of talking to you. I'm gonna turn the time lapse off and just get this done. It's the same as the other side, so nothing's different. This recessed box is a little bit more wonky, so I'm gonna have to use a little bit more Arnold Schwarzenegger to get it into place. But I'm not gonna waste your time. This is taking long enough. So see you on the other side.
Many unbearable hours later.
It's 10 minutes to 11 at night and I've just finished them. Well, they're not finished, but the recesses are fitted. My inner perfectionist still wants to tidy things up a little bit. There's a few weld beads that are showing through and things like that. But yeah, that took some time. I had some issues with some burn throughs and some pinholes in one of the sides, and that took a very long time to fix. It was on the underside here. This is now upside down, so you have to use your imagination a bit. But yeah, it was one of the sides on the underside there. So I had to work on that quite a lot. And this is what it looks like. I've got a cold snack, so I'm gonna find my zen whilst I'm cleaning here, and then I think I need a bit of a tidy up myself. So we'll see you when I see you, probably next year, maybe, I don't know. Top of the morning to you, lads and lassies. There hasn't been much progress lately, and the primary reason for that is my dicky back, and the osteopath is doing a great job making it work better. So we're now at the state where we can continue the work carefully, right?
Careful.
Careful.
Careful, Yoka.
Right, so where the truck was left was that the rear structure here was primered. In here, where I was doing a very intensive session, since that footage I've been out here once, and that was yesterday. Just a bit of a trial run to see whether my body can take it, and I've finished these up so that they are now ready to put on the truck. And what I did was that I fixed this little bit here. Luckily I found the offcuts of this part anyway, so I just needed to cut one of the ends off there and weld it in. Because I want the cable for the taillight to come out here, the cable needs to go somewhere on the outside of these side pods. Initially I thought that I would use captive nuts. That would be to put nuts on the inside here and they would stick up like these ones. And then I thought I don't want to have the hassle of fitting insulation around those. then I thought, well, I can just weld some bolts in, you know, if I have some dome head bolts and something like that, and weld them in, and then they will be fairly low profile. And then I thought that I'll probably just damage the bolts sticking out of there anyway. So as laziness is the mother of all inventions, I came to the conclusion that I would weld something on here that I can put a zip tie or some other fastener onto. I used this box section that looks like this. Then I cut it in half, and then I cut pieces of it, and that way I now have these little tabs here where I can put a cable tie, and the conduit can go across here to a safe place and not get snagged on everything. No more waffling. It's time to clean the paint off where the welds are going to happen and try to fit it onto there and see if that actually works. So fingers crossed. Let's see how far we get today. You might have seen me graze my head slightly on that corner there, and health and safety officer there bought me this hat to put on that bit so that when I hit my head on it, it doesn't penetrate. How does it work then? Oh, right, I'm supposed to put this on my head, and then I look like I should be hunting foxes or something. But yeah, it's a cap with plastic inside, so I can hit my head much easier now.
They're officially called skull caps.
Skull caps! No? What I didn't show on the footage was that when I was doing these, I again got grinding dust in my eyes, and one of them was a little bit worse than normal, so Kaz decided to get me these Bono glasses just in case I decide to try out for U2. Apparently my persona is suitable for that. The point I'm trying to make is that you have the benefit of hindsight that my stupidity didn't have. So take care of yourselves and be nice to each other and all that stuff, and be nice to yourself too. Right?
Something like that. What he said.
That's what she said.
No, that's what he said.
Let's work. The side pods are now in place, roughly. Instead of clamping them completely down and then just tack welding all around, we decided that we are going to do this organically. Surprise, surprise. We're going to do one part at a time. Thanks to having Kaz here helping, she can push the steel in alignment, and then I can tack weld that, and we don't have to spend tons of time clamping. I am happy with that this side at least is in a good enough position and it fits well enough so that we can start tack welding. As usual, my head's everywhere apart from on my shoulders. Let's get Splattermaster 5000 out and let's start welding this in. Earlier we lifted this the central bit back onto the truck, and I drew this artwork here, which is supposed to sort of mimic where the support bars are. I have now just roughly marked out some placements for holes for the plug welds that I'm going to do. So the next step is to just drill them out, and then I'm going to put it back on the truck, and I'm going to mark where the holes are so that I can then remove the paint from where the holes are. Okay, the shower cap is on, as you can see. It is fitting really well. I have clamped it. This seam here is the most important one, along with that one obviously. And then inside here we're going to merge the side and the outrigger thingy with the actual shower cap thing here. Everything here sits fine. Over here it looks like this. I obviously have the plug weld holes in there too, so I need to do them too. But I think I'm gonna start with making sure that this surface here is tickety-boo like that, because yeah, that's the visual bit. That's the thing that you're gonna complain about. So let's start tack welding. Hello boys and girls. As I can't remember what my latest update was, because I have a very good memory, but it's a bit short. So I'm going to tell you what has happened. All the seams have been welded, and I'm using welded, that's a fairly loose term. It's more like squirting as much hot metal onto places and hoping that there's no holes in there. Having said that, there's still plenty of holes that I've discovered afterwards. And no doubt there will be more holes once we've ground down all the seams where they are needed to be ground down. We're grinding down the seams either to make a surface flat or for aesthetic reasons. Aesthetic reasons meaning that we're hiding the bad seams and welds. Where we can get away with the seams untouched, we will do so because we are lazy. So today's work will just consist of us being very cute in our personal protection equipment and grinding down welds and hopefully making some progress on it. There are a lot of welds, so it feels a little bit futile at the moment, but let's not waffle too much about this and let's actually start doing the grinding, because that is what produces the results. I don't know if I'm even going to time-lapse this or anything like that, because it is literally just me and Kaz using angle grinders on the seams, and I think you have better things to do. So see you in a bit. The next step that I need to complete is to fill the pinholes that have just appeared for no apparent reason at all. Definitely not a bad welder. This one might be a bit of a challenge, as you can already see. There's plenty of pinholes here. You might see it or might not see it. The point is that this is 1mm galvanized sheet steel, and this here is 4mm hot rolled steel. The strategy that I'm going to apply is that I'm going to apply the angry end to it and make a dimple, and then I'm going to fill it with weld, and then I'm going to use the rotary eraser. Right, boys and girls, I think I have managed to fill all the pinholes and gaps and stuff on the back here, and I was actually going to use some filler on the seams here, because you can probably see that you can still see them, and this is a fairly visible part of the truck, so I thought I'd tart that up. However, filler is not weld proof, and if I want to fill these holes here with metal, i.e. like this, then I probably need to do that before applying filler. I think that means that I'm now going to shape these previous offcuts from right there to fit, and then I'm going to weld those in, and then I'm going to start this process over again. Grind down the seam, fill in the pinholes and so forth. The fun never stops. The driver's side panel is now in place, ready to be tack welded. I cut it 25mm above the sticky out bits where the 45-degree ends, and I then bent this roughly, very roughly, to 22.5 degrees. The idea here is that when we come to apply the cladding here, that we can overlap the cladding this much so that we can make sure that it is waterproof. That's the idea at the moment. If I don't need it, I'll just cut it off. This is organic engineering after all. I still need to do that one, but I'll tack this one in place first so that I can fully weld them together. I want to share a bit of a tip with you guys, and it has to do with the iteration time between modification, test fit, and realizing what you need to change, and then do the modification and then the test fit and that. That loop needs to be as quick and short as possible. Here I have the welding trolley, and I have a tray on the top of it. I've got some clamps here, I've got my angle grinders on the side there, and I can take the piece that fits over there onto here, clamp it, cut it, grind it, fit it back on there with only a few steps. That way I'm saving a lot of time and effort, and I don't have to take my mind off what it is that I'm doing. I don't have to walk several minutes to go to the tools and stuff like that. Please try to make your iteration between the change and the test fit and the next change as quick and as short as possible. It keeps your mind focused and it saves you a lot of time. That'll do for now. Let's fit the other part. Okay, boys and girls, I think these plates are now also waterproof, not just fully welded in place. I've also used the fantastic polydisc to get rid of the rust converter stuff from here. I'm now going to use some filler to try to get rid of these marks. It's not that it has to look like a show car, but it would be nice if it would be, you know, across the road chic. I'm a bit of a tart, so please indulge me on this one. Let's put some filler on and see how much extra work I can create for myself. With the filler on and some paint to cover it up, it actually looks pretty decent. I've even managed to put some paint up under here. I think this qualifies as across the road chic. There's still a few places on that side of it that need grinding and a little bit more attention, but this is the visible part that I wanted to have fairly good looking. Next step that is definitely not needed is that I want to see what it looks like with the spare wheel mounted and the lights in place. Just to please my ego, I'm going to do that. And that's what it looks like. Not too bad if I say so myself. Plenty of space around a spare tire, so we can go fancy pants with a bigger tire if we want to in the future. And there should be enough shake and bake there to make sure that we have enough space so that the spare tire doesn't hit the wall when we do it in the bush. The lights fit well and they're very visible. When it comes to the lights, this is the concealed mode where the lights are protected. And if that's not enough, I have the street mode too. And you can see how much the spare sticks out there. And I think this is where we'll end the episode. It's gone on for too long, way too long. Still a few details that I want to finagle with, but I'll do that without boring you guys. As it turns out, we're not done yet. So if you want to follow this story, make sure you are all those YouTube things, and I hope to see you in the next one. And thanks for watching.